Welcome back to another episode of I Made That. My guest today is an artist, business coach, and author of an Amazon best-selling book, The Artpreneur, which we will definitely dive into. She's known for helping creatives really channel not only their passions, but all their skills into really successful businesses. And I'm so excited to chat through all things creative and business with my guest, Miriam Schulman. Welcome, Miriam.
Well, thanks for having me, Chloe. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay, yes. So I always love to start the conversation with, can you explain to the audience what you do in your own words?
Mm. Well, I have been an artist for 25 years. And since I would say 2018, when I started my podcast, I slowly started to help other creatives monetize their passions as well. And now that's primarily what I focus on, less on my own art. But it's been 25 years in the trenches before I got to this point.
Yeah, I think context is everything. You have the wisdom to back up what you're currently doing. Okay, so you sent me your book. The first thing I noticed, I opened it up. All of the body text is blue. It's not black. And I was like, okay, I love this. She is a real deal creative. We are totally going outside of the box.
Okay, so that actually very happily was my publisher's idea to do two color printing. So the two colors that we have now, if we had used black, that counts as a color.
Mhm.
So we use blue and green are actually the two colors that are used throughout the book.
I love it. So I want to dig in, okay, because I have questions. Listen, and first of all, everybody should definitely go out and buy Miriam's book. It's called The Artpreneur. Even if you're not necessarily an artist, if you're looking at like a different way to look at small business or want some tidbits, so many good pieces of advice in there. And I think for me personally, a lot of times it's not so much the actual advice, but it's how it's being phrased. And I just felt like the way you write is very digestible. Um, so, okay, mindset. That was one of my biggest takeaways. Okay. So let's talk about how we get into a good mindset to even think about having a business or monetizing what we're doing.
Okay, great place to start. And I do want to say it's more important for me that people read or consume whatever that looks like for you, the book, than it is for them to buy it. So if you need to go to your library and request it from your local library, I'm cool with that. So I don't like, just so you know, not everyone has to read the book. There's audiobook. You can rent the Kindle or get your library to do it. So mindset. Let's talk first about what bad mindset is and why we get into it. Because if it's you, you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. Our brains have evolved for survival, not goal achievement. Well, the only goal thousands of years ago was to stay alive. Okay. So that's what our brain has evolved for. So anytime you're going to do something that's going to put you in harm's way, whether that's leaving the cave, your brain is uncomfortable about doing something that's risky, then it's going to come up with all kinds of reasons why this is a terrible idea and you shouldn't do it. So, problem is that our brain can't tell the difference between leaving a cave and getting eaten by a tiger and raising your prices or
Yeah.
asking someone to buy your stuff or sending out an email. So what happens is your brain will come up with all kinds of reasons why this is a terrible idea and this won't work for you, because that is normal. That is normal. That's how your brain is keeping you safe. So notice I didn't say excuses, because they don't feel like excuses to you. They feel true and real and facts. No, 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 Miriam, you don't understand. And the more creative you are and the smarter you are, and everyone listening to how I made that, I know you're very creative.
Yeah.
The better you are at coming up with these stories, and they're going to hold you back.
Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many things I've rationalized in my head that kept me boxed in for so long. And it's so hard. I think the longer you hold out and live in what you believe are those truths to kind of break down that process and rewire your brain and rewire how you're thinking.
Yeah. One of my favorite mantras that I say to myself, because it's like this is evolutionary. So it never goes away completely. We just learn to, push past it until we're not uncomfortable with taking certain actions. But then we always reach that new level. So we get comfortable with the new higher prices, but then no, it's time to raise it again. So you always have to push back past something uncomfortable. Maybe it's doing a webinar, maybe it's, doing your first in-person show, whatever it is. So what I say to myself is successful people are willing to do things unsuccessful people aren't. That has helped me in so many situations.
I love that. I think, like, very similar to you, one of my big things is all I can do is be undeniable. So if I continue showing up,
Mm,
if I continue putting in the effort, everybody can feel however they want to feel, but you can't take that away from me. So I think that there's a lot of beauty in consistency. And like you said, that's where the successful people live, is how many more times you are willing to show up after failure or after things haven't gone the way you thought they were.
right.
So,
It's like going to the gym because you may not be able to pick up that 10-pound weight. The only way to get stronger is to lift it, and then you're moving on to 15. So it's like putting in those repetitions. Now it's not scary and dangerous and feeling anymore. And the same thing with all the stuff in our business. Like now, you reach to a point where it becomes normal to do certain things, and your brain no longer questions it.
yeah. I mean, on the other side of like ultra successful people, when you're talking about the reps too, I can't remember. I think it was Sam Altman, who he's a wild time within himself. Okay. We're not even going to get into him as a person. But like one of the things that he was talking about on a podcast was how he wired his brain to basically love being in the process and rewiring himself to think like, okay, when we're hitting a problem, that's exciting. We get to problem solve. And so, again, I think going back to this idea of mindset, however you look at that, and tricking your kind of evolutionary brain is just so important, whether we're in the tech space, whether we're in the art space, whatever you're using that towards in business, it's just a necessity.
Totally.
Fabulous. Okay, so another, and then we definitely are going to talk a lot about YouTube, but these are my cliff notes from the book that I had to ask you about.
I'm for all of it. I like don't need to talk
Okay.
about myself. Go ahead,
Oh,
fire away.
stop it. No, because I need to dig into who you are and how we got here. That's for sure happening. Okay, so chapter 6 is called Embrace Your Inner Weirdo, which I love. I don't know if I've ever related to a chapter title more than this one. But I want to talk to you about how, like, do you have any exercises that you suggest to help people really start embracing their natural tendencies?
Yeah. So let's just back up a moment because and define the word weird.
Yeah.
So weird actually comes, I think the original word is from Scotland and
Okay.
it meant fate or supernatural. So if you read Macbeth, there's the Weird sisters who were the three witches. But weird didn't mean what it means today. So what happened as the supernatural became vilified, weird took on a negative connotation. And what I'm saying is if you're embracing that, what the original meaning was fate and destiny. Those were the three sisters in Macbeth that predicted that what was going to happen to Macbeth. So embracing your weird is really just embracing your fate and your destiny. Now, in
Love that.
terms of how to dig into what makes you special or weird, it's usually those things that you're trying to tramp down on. So those are the things that make you stand out.
Yeah.
I can give an example that just happened to me yesterday. Now, the thing is, a lot of people don't want to do this because when you embrace those things, you will attract people who, oh, they're all in, they're all for it. I love that about you. That's amazing. And haters and
Yeah.
haters.
We get
So,
both sides.
like, I'm going to give you something that happened to me last night, not exactly from the art world, but I was
Okay.
giving a paid webinar yesterday on LinkedIn. And the webinar was successful by all metrics. Like people bought my program and afterwards, blah, 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 blah. So by that means like I attracted, my conversion rates were so high. I attracted the people who love me and are all in. The thing is, what I presented was a very simple system. And I'm no nonsense. I'm like, no, you don't have to do newsletters on LinkedIn. That's a waste of your time. No, you don't need a page. You don't need this. You don't like, you're wasting your time on this stuff. So some people love that. And other people are like, it's too easy. It's too simple. I don't get it. I could have Googled like, okay, great. That's fine. You're not my people. And it's going to be true of no matter what it is that you do, however you're showing up, because we don't have anybody in this world who is really truly loved who doesn't also have a hater.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that definitely rings true. Well, and I love, okay, so when you say the no nonsense part of thing, you're a New Yorker, right?
I'm New Yorker, so some people are going to love that, and some people are like, "Oh my god,
Yes,
she's from New
100%.
York." Ugh. I'm sorry.
And okay, so I personally love it because however you want to look at this, I always tell people I'm a Virgo through and through, very cut and dry, very black and white, very decisive. So, whole East Coast, I vibe with y'all. You guys are my people. We're not wasting time beating around the bush. We're doing this or we aren't. And I love that. When you were building out this side of your business, how did you figure out how to lean into like your kind of weirdness? When did you get comfortable with understanding there are people for me, there aren't people for me?
That's a great question, and it did take me a long time. I think one of my biggest aha moments was actually in 2020 when the social justice movement was happening. And there was a lot of criticism of online coaches about, you're not being diverse enough, you're not this, you're not that. And when I looked at round in my program, that was true. But the bigger problem was it wasn't even like there were people like me in my programs. Like I'm Jewish. Like there weren't that many Jewish people in my program. So that's when I really started putting myself out there in a much bigger way. And that's something I talk about a lot in that chapter. So I do get a lot of negative feedback about it, which it's fine. Like, this is a social justice book. And it's not a social justice book. It's really about that was like a wake up call for me that the people in my world didn't even reflect me.
Yeah.
So, yes, I started diversifying. Yes, there's a lot more diversity in my program, but now today, fast forward 6 years later, yes, there are a lot of Jewish people in here. Yes, there's a lot of people because and we're a minority. I think we're like 0.2% or something. Like we're minor, minor, minor. So having the thought there's not enough people like me, there's not enough people who are going to like my stuff. There are millions and millions of people in this world. um, your people are there. Believing in your audience is a big thing also that I talk about in the book, like believing in your buyer. So
Yeah.
we could go there next too if you want to, unless you have more questions about this chapter. I do love this chapter.
It's a good one. It definitely made an impression on me. No, I would love to talk about because I think that that's important. So understanding how to have that idea of there's people for me, there are people not for me, but that
Yeah.
idea of understanding who those buyers are and believing them, I think that is a really natural segue. So
Okay.
let's talk about understanding who your people even are.
Yeah. So a lot of this work, and I do this much more now than since I wrote that book. I do a lot of one-on-one work where I do what I call signal excavation, where you're excavating those stories. And when I do it with my clients, I said, this is not therapy, but we're just trying to find the through line of your life because it's all connected and it all matters. So
Yeah.
we excavate those stories so we can send out the signals that really will attract those people. Because most, especially artists, they have no idea why they're doing something, like what the deeper meaning is, except for the fact that they enjoy it. And you cannot sell something, especially art. You can't say, I love painting and painting brings me peace. Well, the person buying it they don't care how it makes you feel. It's how they make how what you do makes them feel. That's what you have to get. It's very hard to do yourself, but I can give some examples of how this looked for sort of some of my clients. Should we go there for
Yeah,
attracting
absolutely. I
people?
would love
Okay.
to hear that.
All right. So, for example, Bonnie Minardi is a beautiful pastel artist. She may work in other mediums too, but she mostly focuses on the skies. She is in the Pacific Northwest. There are beautiful beach scenes. So before she worked with me, she had like some nice language, peaceful skies, blah, blah, blah. Right. So we did this excavation work and we uncovered, she was willing to share with me, well, when she was young, she had some trauma, some child abuse in her past. And it's not that the child abuse or if someone has sexual trauma or something, that's not like that goes in your artist statement or you need to be talking about it. So that's not
Right.
what I'm saying. Here's what we
Yeah.
did with her. So she
Okay.
told me about when she was a child, how she would go up to the roof in San Francisco and just imagine her escaping, like she could fly. And I said to her, that is what you need to talk about in your artist statement. Not the so much that's even that story, which you could, but her art is for people who want escape.
Yes.
So you see the difference there? Her art isn't for somebody who's a child abuse survivor. Her art
Right.
is for somebody who wants escape. It's how the art
Hmm.
makes somebody feel.
Yeah. I love that. I think, and that's everything, no matter what you're selling. It's that emotional connection, the storytelling, that's what sells it. So I love
So
that
let's
you're
take this
able,
out of the art world.
yeah,
Nike, they're selling motivation. They're
yes.
not like they might be selling sneakers, but it's just do it. That's their
Hmm.
slogan. It's not these are the best sneakers in the world.
No,
There's not
no,
this will help you run faster,
yeah,
like which would say benefits, benefits, benefits. So that's the thing. Like a lot of marketing advice is so wrong. Like focus on the benefits, not the features. Well, the benefit of the sneaker might be that it helps you run faster, but that's not what people are buying. They're buying motivation. They're buying how this product makes them feel.
yeah, yeah. I think Nike is such an excellent example of that. And, they've gone a little bit wayward in the last couple years, but one of the most powerful campaigns that I saw from them recently was like that we're not all winners. That was the essence of it. But winners were Nike. So to your point, it's you're feeling like a winner when you're buying Nikes. That's what they want you to feel like. That's what you're working towards. So I think that in the art world, getting people to process and feel the emotions. How do you walk people through that without it feeling contrived? I almost feel like it's more hard from an art standpoint because it is so personal oftentimes.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a while for people to open up to me because it depends on their upbringing. There was one client that I worked with, and it wasn't until the end of the session where she opened up because in the beginning, "Oh, everything's perfect." I was like, "Why do you, what are you trying to create with these ocean paintings? Peace. Well, peace from what? Where do you feeling tension in your life? No, everything's great. Everything's great. I had a 30-year marriage. It's all beautiful." And then at the end, it's like, well, actually, she was like, she's separated from her husband and it's like the third time. It was like things were not all peaceful. Well, this was the stuff that was important. Not that she's going to put into her artist statement, "I've been separated from my husband." See, that's what people get confused about, especially when the Embrace Your Inner Weirdo chapter, what it is that we're talking about. And you see people who misunderstand this all the time on Instagram. They're like trying to trauma bond with you. Right.
Yeah,
Like
we don't want to do that.
I don't like that. Don't show
No.
me that. I don't want you crying on the internet. Stop it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see it. So
No, we're taking the storytelling. We're editing down.
well, it's coming to what are the feelings people want. Now, Nike that we mentioned before, they got it very, very wrong recently. So I forget who the actress was, but she was running from like the Chainsaw Massacre guy. I think that was the
Boy,
commercial.
I missed
So
this.
that failed. That campaign failed. And the reason why is because, again, it wasn't about running faster. What they missed is that their core message has always been about freedom and choice. And
Yeah.
that was not about freedom and choice. That was running because you had to. So that campaign completely flopped.
Yikes. I know. I'm gonna have to go Google that one after this. I didn't even hear about that. I'm shocked. Oh my goodness. Okay. So let's hang on. Let me poke through my notes over here real quick. Oh, another thing that I really wanted to talk to you about. This was a big takeaway for me. Maybe it went like identity, and then this was the other one. The idea of owning your audience. And I think that today we're so social media based in so many different ways, but a lot of people are really waking up to the idea that you don't own your Instagram account. You don't own your Facebook account. So the idea of getting people off there and having your email list, having your direct access to people. Can we talk about why this is more important now than ever?
Yeah, and I'm so bored of the conversation of you have to own your audience because that's what people will focus on, and that's not even the reason.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of artists don't even care about that reason, to be honest. That's why it's so hard to
Yeah.
convince them to do something different. This is what will convince you though.
Hmm.
When I was writing my book, I got a lot of criticism from the publisher. Why aren't you talking more about social media? You should be talking about TikTok. You should be talking about Instagram. Oh, you're so old fashioned. I guess that's because you're in your 50s. You don't believe in this. And I was so mad. I was like, no, if you believe social media works, you're old fashioned. I didn't say that to them, but I had a
Right.
moment then where I had to make a choice. I could either add some tactics in to please my audience, my publisher, or double down. And I chose to double down because when I was writing the book, and I was writing it in 2022, when I started writing the book, the average engagement rate was only 1%. That's one out of 100 people. What does engagement mean? Does that mean buying your stuff? No. 1% means clicking, liking, commenting, or DM. One of those things.
Right.
That now, when I went to edit that chapter, I said, well, let me double check these stats. It was 0.6%. So that's what went
Yeah.
in my book in 2023. Chloe, it's 2026. The average engagement rate is only 0.36%. And what's pulling up that average are sports teams. Sports
Oh,
teams have 2%. Retail, home decor, things where artists would be, people who are making things, that's 0.1. That's one out of 1,000 people will engage with your stuff. So
it's
here's
insane.
why you should use email. Okay. Email has an average open rate of 24 to 40%. But even
Hmm.
if we use 24%, if you have 100 people on your email list, 100 people at least will, 24 people will at least open it and see what you're looking
Hmm.
at, right?
Right.
Okay. And they choose if they're opening it,
Yes.
the person you're sending it to. On social media, the algorithms decide if they'll even see it. And you would
Right.
need 6,000 followers on Instagram to get 24 people to see, like, click, comment, something like that. 6,000 versus 100. That's the reason why you need to focus on email, not just because you don't own Instagram.
Right. No, I love that. I feel like too, if you're choosing to open an email in general, you're going to look at that email for longer than you're going to look at an Instagram post. Because I don't know about you, but it's a lot of quick scrolling. It's not taking in the information generally. I'm not a big caption reader. It's I like this the way it visually looks or not. And that's what I use social media for.
Yeah. I mean, on TikTok, you can follow somebody and never see their stuff ever again. That's why
Wow.
there are quote unquote influencers with millions of followers. And sometimes they'll do like a something con, what blah 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 con, whatever it is, and they'll
Yeah.
invite TikTok influence, and there'll be nobody standing around their booth because nobody really knows who they are. Like,
Right.
so yeah.
No, it is a wild time. I don't know. I lovingly call myself a boomer when it comes to social media because I do try and live in the real world. I think you have to have a healthy relationship with it. You can't totally not have it. I think that it has a purpose And even from like an art perspective, I do love Instagram as like a visual portfolio. I think it's a cool place to show people what you're working on and kind of the behind the scenes of that. And if people want to dig into your personality a little bit more, I think it's fantastic for that. From a sales perspective, I'm on board with you. I think like the email is fantastic. The in-person networking, talking to people like they're people at an actual place so that they know who you are and they have, again, that like emotional almost connection with who you are and the art that you're creating is so lost this day and age. But I think that that's another thing that you did a really excellent job at touching on in the book is getting out there, not just handing people your business card. You got to go talk to people. So, okay. Is there anything else that you can think of as far as the book that you're like, we definitely got to talk about this today?
We can talk about the belief triad. I think that is something that everyone on I Made That needs to hear. So I'm just going
Yeah,
to
let's jump
go
into
into
it.
it.
Yeah.
So the belief triad, the first three parts triad. Okay. So the first parts are things we've all heard. So we're not even going to like get into it. It's like you need to believe in yourself. We've all heard that. You need to believe in your art. Nobody talks about you need to believe in your buyer.
Yeah.
What that looks like, it's kind of like how in Pretty Woman, when Julia Roberts goes, it takes the Richard Gere's credit card and goes to Rodeo Drive, and those mean salespeople won't wait on her. And we
Mm-hmm.
all think we're not those mean salespeople. However,
Mm-hmm.
how many times have you not asked for the sale, assumed the person couldn't afford it, thought, oh, they won't pay those kinds of prices, offered them a discount? That's not believing in your buyer.
Yeah.
But here's where it really can sabotage you. So, Chloe, if I wanted to sell you a $5,000 painting,
Mm-hmm.
by the time we hit this conversation, what's going through your mind is not, do I like Miriam's art? Like, believe in the art, believe in me. That's not what's going through your mind. At that point, when you come to that purchasing decision, you're trying to decide not if Miriam Schulman is worth it, not if her art is worth it. You're trying to decide if Chloe is worth it.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to decide if you're worth spending $5,000 on. So if I'm over here as the salesperson, um, thinking thoughts like, I don't know if she can afford that, or if I'm spending too much time on the other two things, trying to prove to you why I'm good and my art is good, and I'm not focused on what's really going through your mind, I'll lose the sale.
Yeah. I love that. And I think again that goes back to a lot of like you spoke about creating that experience for somebody. I think it should be centered around the buyer. It's almost um the first business I ever owned, we had a little t-shirt shop. It was a souvenir shop at one of the ski resorts in Colorado. Okay. And so our average price for something that we sold in there is mostly like $20 t-shirts, right? Pretty low cost items. But we would have these, what I lovingly call the trophy wives from Miami. They would come in and I loved them, but they would think that this was Neiman Marcus. And I would give them that experience. I'll come be your personal shopper. Let's walk through. Let's figure out what sizes all your kids are wearing. And you give them that experience. And so, like you said, you get them to believe that this is exactly what they need. This is exactly what they're looking for. They're worth this experience because they are, because they're going to walk out of there with $500 worth of stuff. And that's so much more worth it for me to give her that 20 minutes of experience, which was always really fun, by the way, because they had the best stories. And it was just such a wildly different life than I was experiencing.
So where the belief really comes in there, the believing in your buyer, is you believed that even though this customer demanded more of your attention, that she was going to spend more than $20 on one t-shirt.
Yeah,
And you
absolutely.
have that belief about anyone who walks in the door.
Mm-hmm. Point in case, I had these gals come in. They definitely looked like they had just gotten off the ski slopes. Like they were not super put together. They weren't like, it wasn't bad, but it was like we've definitely been out skiing all day. We're like in sweaty t-shirts. but they were the sweetest, walked them through, gave them the Miami Trophy Wife experience, right? Didn't even realize, go to check them out. And it was the family from Duck Dynasty. This is like while they were on TV at that time. And they cashed out. I can't even remember what the dollar amount was, but that's like a really good example of believing that they're going to buy more because we're creating that experience. And it doesn't necessarily matter what you look like. We're still believing in that.
Yeah, right. We're not treating them like the mean salespeople.
Exactly. We try not to be mean salespeople. Okay, fabulous. So I want to talk a little bit more about you. Let's dive into, can we talk a little bit more about you as an artist?
Sure.
Okay, so how did you even, I know in the book we go into the idea of like the first time that you felt like an artist, but for the audience, can you walk us through what your trajectory was as an artist?
Yeah. So really, it goes back to the fourth grade. I was the new kid in school, and my teacher made me the class artist. So I just, oh, well, then I'm the class artist, of course. Meanwhile, all I had to do for that was like glue toothpicks on a pumpkin for the Halloween pumpkin, and the teacher told me where to put them. It's not like it even used any of my creativity, but from that moment on, like I decided I was an artist. What does an artist do? An artist draws. And when I was bored in class, what does an artist do? An artist is going to draw the teacher. So I had this belief in myself that that's who I was. Like that was my identity.
I love that. I think I have been really lucky to have so many influential people in my life that really kind of gave me a leg up and like provided that mentorship. Outside of that teacher, who else in your life has really stood out as like, wow, they made an impact on me?
That's a really great question. So, in the last chapter of the book, I talk about my high school drama teacher. So, he made a really big impact on me. Um, we were, I still remember to this day, we were on the school bus and I was a senior and I was saying, "Oh, I can't wait till finals are over." You know how people say things like that. And
Oh,
he
yeah.
got so mad at me. He was like, um, don't ever wish time to go by. I was like, whoa, okay. But then a year later, he died of AIDS. So he was saying that to me, and this is in the last chapter of the book, but a lot of people don't get to that. He was saying this to me
Okay,
because
I don't remember this.
he knew he was dying, and that's where that was coming from. Yeah, I had my wake up call when 9/11 happened. A lot of people had their wake up call when the pandemic happened. Or maybe you have a crisis in your life that lifts a veil over what's no longer working in your life.
Yeah.
But if you have a dream, don't wait for someday. Do it now. Pursue it now, even if it scares you and makes you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. No, I think that that's, some of the best advice that I've heard reiterated in so many different ways, but all of the people that I really respect in business, particularly, have always told me that. It's like, it doesn't matter. You don't have it figured out. Start now. Go do something. You'll figure it out on the way. And I think that, for me, I think the kind of shift was definitely COVID. Obviously, for you, it was 9/11. The last gal that I just had on, she's a really wonderful publicist. She lives out on the West Coast. 9/11 was that for her too. And I know so many people in this country, that was such a big shift. I think that COVID was, knock on wood, I think a little bit less jarring than that. But for my generation, was that kind of like, oh, wow, we don't actually, there's really no rules. Everything could be totally different tomorrow. And so why are we doing things the way we have always done things? Um, so all that to say, I totally wholeheartedly agree. If you're in the midst of something right now that feels like, oh, you can't change this, you can. You always have the choice. There's always the idea that you're in charge of your life and you can start small. You don't have to do something big and grandiose. My last guest literally left her job, was like, I'm totally changing my life and moving to a new city. It doesn't have to be that crazy. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So We talked about some of your inspirations and people that made an impact on your life. I would love to dig in a little bit more about what part of working as a creative professional you struggle with most.
Hmm. I would say the hardest thing for me is setting boundaries on my time because I love what I do, and I can do it all. It doesn't always feel like work to me, but it is. And it's not so much myself, but then like my family wants me. My husband's like, "Why are you working so hard?" I'm
Yeah,
like, I didn't even realize I was working. I thought I was just watching this video I made and giving ideas to the video editor about what gifts to use. That this is so fun. I'm having a great time. So I definitely think for me the biggest struggle is boundaries around my time and having that balance. I've worked hard to create that for myself. So I do go to the gym like 4 mornings a week. I have 12 to 2 blocked out on my calendar every day. Somehow this podcast made it in there and I had to tell my
wow.
Andy, I was like, could you please stop booking me during lunchtime? So like I have like the things that I put in place that like kind of
Mhm.
guardrails to keep me from overworking because that is the biggest challenge for me.
I feel that in my soul. I literally can't stop. I mean, it's just like you said, when you love what you do, it is very hard to protect your energy or create, some kind of balance, whatever we want to call it. Um, is there any particular situation that stands out, like a negative situation that you were able to turn into a positive, something that you really took lessons away from throughout this whole journey, whether being an artist or this foray into your now business side of things?
Yeah, I mean, lots of stories. One that just popped into my head was around the idea around pricing higher.
Hmm.
So, one of my early mistakes was when I first started offering portraits for sale, and this was in the early 2000s. So there weren't even a lot of websites, and I found someone's website and I saw what that guy was charging, and he was charging $300 a portrait, and I decided to charge less because I was just starting out, which is what a lot of
Right.
people think they need to do. Um, and so when I went to meet with one of my new clients, instead of picking out one photo for me to create a portrait of each of her two children, she picked out three. And then she ended up not even framing them all because it was more expensive to frame it than it was what she paid me. So that was my sign I need to triple my prices.
Yeah, that would
And
be
I
exciting
see
to
that
hear.
mistake all the time. People going on Etsy and looking at what other artists are charging who have starving artist mindsets. You don't want to copy other people's starving artist minded pricing. And cheaper is not necessarily easier to sell.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's another really interesting thing that I run into with a lot of my creative clients, and not that I necessarily work with this side of their businesses, but the idea of figuring out how to value your art or how to price it. How do you address that conversation with your clients?
Almost everybody is pricing too low. There's some outliers who they have it's always coming from the scarcity minded place though. There's people even who are pricing too high. Sometimes it's a scarcity minded place because these are people who have never sold an art before and yet they're pricing it for like 25,000. I'm like, why? And the reason why is because they think that they're never going to paint something that good again. Basically, that's what it comes down to. So it's still coming from that scarcity place.
Yeah,
So that's why it all comes back. It all comes back to your mindset and abundance. We call them. I call them the avoidance Barbies. There
I
is
love it.
the yeah. Can we just segue into that because that's a super fun conversation. The different avoidance Barbies.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And if you want, we have visuals that go around with it along with this. I
Oh my
don't
God.
use the Barbie logo or name on my ChatGPT generated images because I think Chad told me that was copyright infringement, but it's pink. Okay. So we have exposure artist, the exposure artist.
Okay.
And I've made a lot of these mistakes. This is like you do it for the exposure.
Hmm.
You're right. Okay. But plumbers would never do this. Plumbers, they're going to charge you what it costs to fix your toilet. You can't put their URL or their website over your toilet saying, oh, a lot of people use my toilet. No, it doesn't
No,
work that way. You have to pay
it
them.
does.
Yeah, so exposure was something that I had a lot of problem with. You know, somebody came to me, "Oh, we'd love to use your art in our brochure because we love your musician paintings." I'm like, "Oh, my ideal audience, great!" And just put my information in the brochure. Okay, great. And when I got the brochure, they used like 6-point font. You could not read it at all. Yeah. So not that even if they had used the regular font, it would have mattered.
It's
It's like
right.
that
Still not justified.
just don't do things for exposure. Exactly.
Yes. I
So the
think that's
exposure,
especially like a lot of artists starting out can really fall into that arena.
yeah. So don't be exposure artist Barbie.
Okay.
There's also art hoarder Barbie.
Okay.
So art hoarder Barbie, they put up a lot of barriers in the way of selling it. Oh no, I'm saving that for a show. You're
Yeah.
nodding your head. So you know what I'm talking about now. Like, oh, like this, I
Absolutely. Right.
submitted this for a juried competition, so I can't sell it. Like you've lost the plot.
Right. If you
Sell it
have a ready,
now.
willing, and able
You get
buyer.
put something else in that show, right? You know, like okay, so
Well, and the
that's
point of
art.
the show is to sell it. So if somebody wants to buy it, why are we wait? Sell it.
That's what I'm saying. So, but it's like really the
Yes.
idea that they're hoarding it. Again, that's the scarcity mindset that they what you don't believe you're going to make another one that is as good as this one. So that's where that it's from a scarcity minded place. Then there is the art idealist Ken.
Oh, okay.
Ken doll because they're definitely men definitely do this more than women. Art
Yeah.
shouldn't be sold that way. You know, like
This is
real
interesting. I don't
artists,
know that I've come across this one as frequently.
right? Do you have more women in your
I
community?
was gonna say, I think I live in a very female world, like not necessarily on purpose. That's just what I attract, and
Right.
probably for the
So
best.
I meet these types more on the internet underneath my YouTube videos, not in my
Oh,
community. So it
God,
is real art. Real artists shouldn't. Real artists aren't commercial. Real artists don't follow trends. Real artists don't care about the buyer. I'm like, really? Because I kind of think that Michelangelo considered himself a sculptor, but the Pope said, "I'll pay you a lot of money to do the Sistine Chapel." And he
right?
said, okay. He didn't say, no, I just want to do angels.
Yeah, no, that was
And
not.
I'm a sculptor. That doesn't make me a real artist. And he made a lot of money. And
That man
he
was
was
fully funded, and we love
fully
that for him.
funded. And was he following the trends? I kind of think he was. I don't think he was doing graffiti or pop art or mixed media. He was doing
Right,
Renaissance art because
he
it
was
was
of
the
the era.
Renaissance. Right. So
Yes.
that's art idealist Ken. Um,
Okay.
Yes. Then there is, so this one, I was calling it my last YouTube video when I had it, I called it the scarcity survivor. Um, but now I'm thinking about renaming this as to the garage sale artist. But this is how this shows up. This is the type of person. It's a garage sale artist. They just do everything.
Yeah.
Do everything. So that's why
Mhm.
I call it. It's like a garage sale, and they're usually cheap little things. Like it's here's the hand crocheted, um, mug warmer, and then it's this little thing over here, and then they have stickers, and so that's garage sale artist.
That one I
Then
find a lot too. And I think, I mean, this is something I very personally struggle with is like niching down my offerings because I think it's hard when you can do so many things to really focus on what you do best and what's bringing in money. And so that's like a big lesson that I've had to learn personally.
absolutely, and I'm not saying you shouldn't experiment, and I'm not saying you shouldn't explore
Yeah,
things creatively, but when it comes time to market, you focus
yes,
one thing at a time, and
absolutely.
where there's gold, keep digging. Don't
Yes.
step over dollars to pick up nickels.
Yeah. No, I love that. I haven't even watched the entire movie yet, the new Charlie XCX Brat movie, and everybody clipped the Kylie Jenner quote from it because Charlie XCX is like worried that she's, going too hard with this album, and Kylie Jenner's like, when you think you're going too hard with something, like double down on that. That's when you need to go even harder. And so that just popped into my head when you're saying like, once you found gold, keep digging there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like also going back to our earlier conversation about inner weirdo, and also what the fight I had with my publisher about should I be adding social media tactics. And I was like, no, I'm doubling down on why you should focus on your email list rather than social media.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. Stand
Okay, so
on
there's
business.
one more Barbie. I think this is the
Oh,
fifth
okay.
one.
Who is she?
Polite creative.
Oh, tell
Polite
me.
creative thinks it's I don't want to make things weird by asking for the sale.
I have a lot of these girlies that come
Well,
to me initially as
this
clients.
is more women. This is like you're not going to get a
Yes.
lot of the art idealist Ken. If you have a lot of women in your community, you'll have a lot of polite creatives. And us women, we've been
Yes.
socialized that way. We've been socialized to be the nice girl, not to make waves, don't make things
Hmm.
weird, be polite. Can't run a business that way. Men don't have this problem. Men like
No.
it's $10,000. Want it?
Right. Even when it comes to like jobs, like when people are asking for salaries, I think just in general, like for whatever reason, women have an issue speaking about money a lot of times, which this is something, and I don't know if you can relate to this, maybe because you're more East Coast, but I feel like it's just a very black and white conversation. The worst thing they're going to say is no, or, oh, that's out
It's
of my price. Well, what is your
no,
number
it's
then?
not that East Coast women have an easier time with this. When I ride the subways, the
Hmm.
men are sitting there with their legs splayed out, taking up a lot of room, and the women, like their legs are crossed, they're taking up as little room as possible. We have
Hmm.
been conditioned to be small,
Yeah.
whether it's because of the Barbie dolls that are too small, the weight loss industry, all these are factors that are conditioning us to play small. And especially, I would say, American women, that we are also taught that it's wrong to desire sex, power, and money. It's like a very
Yeah.
Puritan belief that's in our culture. So American women definitely have this worse, but it's not an East Coast, Midwest thing. It's a female socialization thing.
Yeah, no, and we won't even dive into the patriarchy. We're gonna let everybody live outside of that conversation for today. But absolutely, I think that it definitely falls under, and I think I even remember you talking about like the modeling complex of, how women are supposed to literally, our beauty standards are like looking frail. You know what I mean?
That's
And what
right.
better
Weak,
representation?
frail, small.
Hmm.
Yes. So we take in this messaging, and even if you are body positive and you're thinking, no, no, I'm not that way. I embrace my full figure, but you're still taking in the messaging. It's still affecting you.
Yeah.
If you are polite creative, that's how it's affecting you.
Definitely. No, I see a lot of examples of that. I will say, I think that we're definitely moving into a time where it's much more accepted for women to kind of live outside of those societal norms. And I think that even when I have clients personally come to me that maybe start out initially not wanting to ask for money or not wanting to ask for the sale, it's a lot easier to have that conversation and work into that place of belief. I think now more than ever, even than like 10 years ago when I started out in this space. So I will say, as a society, I love that for us.
Great.
Okay, so we have reached the point in the interview where I get to ask you the question that I ask every single person that comes on this podcast. What is the wildest story that you can tell me on this podcast?
You gave me this homework, didn't you?
Well, because I like to make sure before I ask this question, like I don't want people to tell me like stories where you're going to send somebody to jail, or it's like, we got to give you time to like redact these as necessary because sometimes they get really out of hand.
Yeah, are those the types of stories people are telling? Like the time I drove my friend's car because he had too much to drink, but I didn't even have my license yet and it was snowing. Is that the type of stories we're supposed to be
I
telling,
mean,
or are
I
these
get across the gamut. Like sometimes, really recently, I had one about going to see WWE in Paris. Okay, but then, when I had the StockX co-founder on, it was about like the day that Kanye came to visit the campus. So it's like we get all kinds of stuff and everything
what
in
about the
between.
time I made out with Jake Tapper when we were in college?
Shut up, because I love Jake Tapper. Don't even gas me up like this. I'm
All right, they were
dying.
going with this is all being recorded, right? All of this counts, everything I
Yes.
just said. Okay. Yeah, then we'll do
But we
that
can
one.
cut it out if need be. At
So
least I
when I
know.
was in
Yeah.
college, he was in the class below me, and he had actually a week. He's an artist. He had a weekly
Really?
column in our class newspaper. It was like a cartoon. That was what he was known for then.
Okay.
And I hadn't come out as an artist yet in college. And after I made out with him, I was like, it was just one. I didn't whatever. I didn't. It was very PG. Let's just put it that way. But the next day, I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. I'm gonna go get some pastels. I need to draw too. Why is this non-polite creative get to do stuff? Um,
Yes.
so yeah, it actually did have an impact on me. And then unfortunately, I told my kids, and so when they used to see him on CNN, my son, he's now 25, but back then he said, "There's your boyfriend,"
My gosh.
and he
I
was
love
not my boyfriend. Like I made out with him
it.
once. So
See, that was a good one. That was
okay,
completely
there it is.
unexpected.
There, it's out there.
Oh my gosh. I love it. That's so funny. He was like our definite go-to during all COVID. That's what I think of when I think of Jake Tapper is him. But he's also like such a serious, like buttoned up person. I can't imagine him as like a free-flowing, like artsy guy.
He didn't quite know who he was. He joined a fraternity, and then I think by senior
Wow.
year he had dropped out of the fraternity. But like when I met him, he was like trying to fit into the box, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. And then I think by senior
Yes.
year he had a ponytail.
Wow.
Like, yeah,
That was a choice.
especially in 1990. I mean, yeah,
You know, he was trying to find himself. God bless,
that's
okay?
right.
Let
He doesn't
let
have the
him do it.
ponytail now. He looks practically Republican. So.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's very buttoned up now. That's what I think of with the glasses and the wow. All
Yeah,
right,
he
my
looks like Mr.
eyes have been
Rogers.
open.
Okay,
What'd you
well, I'm glad
say?
I went with that.
Yeah, that was a good one. Okay, well, before we wrap up, I definitely want to give you an opportunity to let people know where they can find you. What's your website? What's your social media? Give us the plug.
Okay, well, if you like the conversation we had today, you can come find me on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on your podcast app, I'm the Inspiration Place. So that's the easiest place. Again, check out Artpreneur. You can check it out from your library, request it from your indie bookstore, or I don't know, add it to your Amazon cart.
It's find it somewhere. Listen,
Yeah.
guys. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Miriam. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, Chloe. It was super fun.
All right, I'll see you guys next week. Okay.